And during that free flowing time, I'm sure you as an employer, as a human resources manager, can probably pick up quite a few nuggets during that time, as well as so it's both a good time for that person to calm down a little bit, as well as for you, the potential employer, to really get in on them. And you pass that on to students as well, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yes. That's a big deal, Jared. Well, you know, when you think there's so many aspects that go into it, and we've got a whole lot of questions that we'd like to go over. What about if a candidate has very little job experience? What are some of the things there for somebody? And one other thing I was thinking about is you were saying that if an employer is putting in blind ads, is there a way for a candidate, I guess they will find out ultimately before they go in for the job interview who the potential employer is, but so oftentimes because of someone who's in that existing position, they may have to run a blind ad to try to find a candidate.
Sure. And that's not too uncommon, especially like you said, if somebody actually is still occupying the position that the company is looking for. For those that do have a little bit, little experience or no experience at all, and this is probably one of the biggest ones that most college students, entering the job market experience for the first time. It's that wonderful catch-22 that you run into, because when you start getting into some of the job ads, you start seeing needing 2 to 3 to 5 years of experience.
Right.
So then you're left wondering with, okay, I need the job to get the experience, but then you need the experience to get the job. So it's that wonderful, problematic quandary that you find yourself in. So one of the things that most students, I try to encourage them to do is focus on your education. Focus on some of the classes that you've taken. You may have worked on some projects, but you may be able to explain a little bit more of the skills and abilities that you have in that area. If you don't have anything really to kind of put down a resume, volunteering is a great way to build up a resume very quickly.
Really?
Most places are looking for anybody that they can get to come in and help out. And a lot of times you can pretty much write almost your job description when walking into a volunteer situation, because they are in that desperate a need of people to come in and help out. So you can really start showing some leadership skills, take over some responsibility, and try to really, create the results that you're looking for, something that you can actually then go into a job interview with and be able to talk about at that point in time. And one of the other things I would really encourage students to do, or new job candidates to really get into, is use the job hunt really as a way to show how dedicated you are to the potential profession you're about to get into. Go out there, do some research, separate yourself. Potentially some people actually will call up the potential hiring manager or somebody within the company and want to interview them. Let them know, hey, I'm just a recent graduate. If you wouldn't mind 5-10 minutes of your time, I'd like to know a little bit more about your industry, kind of what your position is, what you do. I'm kind of thinking of getting into that type of environment. And kind of see if you can give me some help in kind of searching for that. And a lot of things start happening when you do those types of things. It shows initiative a lot of times. And also, sometimes you can start building some good networks that way, because it gives you an opportunity to talk with somebody about what they do, and they may know somebody else who has a position open that you may be a perfect candidate for. So now you're not only going in blindly, you now have a referral going in for that new job.
That is tremendous. Do you find that happens often, Jared?
Not too often.
Not too often.
You really don't. But when it does show up, you really pay attention to that person, because somebody who takes the initiative to really get in there and try to make something happen and really show that, hey, I'm here, I understand, I don't have a lot of experience in it, but I have the determination to make something happen, that goes a long way.
I was talking to our copy editor recently at the Herald, and she was mentioning one of her good friends is finding that she has too much experience when she goes out for job interviews. And I guess prospective employers just say, what's the reaction? I mean, that must be a difficult thing for folks to hear, because oftentimes they're just desperate to get a job.
It is. The resume, unfortunately, in that situation, like you just explained, can almost work against you, because as a recruiter myself, when I see somebody come across the desk that has, if I'm hiring for a sales position, I see somebody who has 10 to 15 years of direct sales management experience. The initial question is, why would you want to take a step back seemingly in your career to take on this type of position? A lot of times the best way to kind of combat that is to send along the cover letter and really try to explain to them that I do understand what this position entails somewhat. So, I'm willing to take that step back because I believe in what the company is doing. I feel the opportunity there is much greater. So therefore, I'm willing to take this kind of seemingly career step back to then move myself forward, because I think the opportunity is really what I'm looking for. So it kind of takes a little bit more of a sales mentality on somebody who has a little bit more experience to kind of try to convince the hiring manager that you're not just going to come in for a few months or a year or so and then get bored and then be gone.
Right.
So, but that is very good to address it up front.
That is very important, because obviously employers do not like that churn and burn.
Absolutely.
That oftentimes can happen. We were hiring for a position recently and got, without a cover letter, someone who was making 3 times what that position was paying.
Sure.
And of course would have been leaving something, and it's very difficult as an employer to think, golly, that person could be tremendous, but at the same time it could just be they need a year off between doing what they're doing now and going to something else. So it's a very difficult position to be in. You're right. How about some of the common mistakes that candidates make? Maybe that, without sending a cover letter, is a common mistake.
Sure.
What are some other common mistakes that folks may make, Jared, and what are some of your solutions to make sure they don't make them?
Sure. One of the most obvious ones are spelling or grammatical errors on any type of resume. I mean, that's
You've never seen those, have you?
no, of course not. Never. It's never
And probably
happened.
never done it either.
No.
Yeah.
Always have somebody proofread your resume, go through it line by line, because really what this is your first professional piece you're handing into your potential employer.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of people just think it's just a couple pieces of paper with some words on it, telling a little bit about yourself, and that's it. No, what this is really looked at is this is your first piece of professional work. The rest of your work potentially is going to look like your resume does.
Right.
So go through, take the time to really make sure everything is spit polished and looks as best as it possibly can.
Yeah.
This is your marketing piece.
Right.
Because it's going to speak for itself. There's nobody telling you, this is what this means or this is what this means.
Yeah.
You can only take it at what it says for face value.
Right.
Some of the other things that a lot of people don't think about, especially as we move into more of an email type age and people like to respond and correspond through email, is be mindful of the email return address that you put on there. You don't really want to put on there bigpartyer@AOL.com.
Oh, yeah.
I've had some people send things. This is a morning show, so I can't repeat some of the email address names that people have put on there, and it makes you wonder, were you not thinking when you put this on here? You just kind of laugh at it for a second, but then it starts to get sad after a while when you see so many of them. So be mindful of some of the return address things, and also make sure the address that you're putting on there is an accurate one.
Yes.
It's not good, especially if you have a telephone number on there that you call and you find out that it's been disconnected. That doesn't usually bode well in your favor.
Well, yeah, sure.
So for that, and also one of the other things a lot of people don't consider is the answering machine message that you have on your phone.
Right.
I've contacted a few people, and I'm looking for this is your kind of professional first experience I had with you, and somebody sounds like they've just woken up after a 3-day bender. It just doesn't work very well, for that. So being mindful of somebody's going to be trying to contact you. Be prepared and be professional for that area.
That is good. Not necessarily your cat on the phone answering or otherwise.
Yes.
That is great, Jared. When we think about, we've got about 3 minutes. I'm sorry, time is flying. Tips for interviews. Just a handful of key tips that viewers may want to think about, whether they're later in life and going into another career opportunity, or if they're just starting out, or even some of our students that may be at home and are college students now here in the summertime and may be at home or starting to think about summertime opportunities.
Sure. Good firm handshake when you meet somebody. Let them know you're here. I'm ready to go.
Right.
Good professional grooming attire. Make sure for guys, nails, of course, clipped, shoes.
Sure.
Always important. For ladies, your hair, makeup is done, but make sure everything's usually in a conservative manner, for that. Some of the areas some people can get into a little bit of trouble with is when you're talking about former employers. You don't want to bash your former employers, even if it was a bad situation when you left, because the recruiter's thinking, well, if they had a bad experience there and it was actually this candidate that was the problem, and moving on, they'll simply do the same thing to us in our organization, so you don't want that. So you really want to keep it as professional and as positive as you can. Always lead with your most positive strengths first, whether it's a resume, whether it's an interview. Talk about your best attributes first, because really what you start off with is really what's going to make that lasting impression. So lead off with the best information that you have about yourself, and really try to tailor-make not only your resume, but your interview to the specifics of the job. Sending out resumes, generic resumes are some of the worst ones.
Oh, yeah.
Really go as specific as you can to that particular position.
That is tremendous, Jared. We've got a minute, and of course we focused on the candidates themselves, but for someone who's actually doing the hiring, any good tips from an instructor's point of view or a human resources manager like yourself who's skilled in the industry, what are some good tips that a potential employer needs to think about for a key hire?
Sure. Know the position. Know it front to back. Have a really well-defined job description as best you can.
Okay.
A structured interview. Having your questions written out beforehand can keep you out of trouble and also get you the answers you really are looking for,
Good.
as opposed to just going into and just randomly talking with somebody. So the more you can focus on the specifics of the job and really kind of drill down on what those are, the better your success is going to be in hiring good candidates that are going to stay with your company and make a good impression and good benefit for your organization.
And for a small business hire where they don't have a human resources manager like yourself, for someone who's got 7 or 8 employees, they may not know they may not have worked all the positions in there. The best way to really know that position as they're trying to fill it is to ask someone who currently has it, or what's the best way if they haven't held that position to figure it out?
Sure, there's some different places on the internet that you can go that can give you some basic job descriptions as to what that position entails.
Good.
But if you can find someone that's an expert in that field, don't be afraid. Go out and ask them what they do, kind of get a good idea as to what the tasks and responsibilities are for that position. So, because the better informed you are, the better you're going to be able to find a perfect match for that candidate.
Those are great words. Jared, thanks so much. And I like your handshake. Yeah. And you're not trying to get a job either. I like your handshake. That's great. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Jared Lazear coming up next. Lots of short words and acronyms, whether it's jobs, the short word of jobs, or the acronym RAMS or KSAs. We think about research, analysis, marketing, sales, or we think about clearly that KSA, the knowledge, the skills, ability. These are a lot of things that not only Jared, but in the classroom folks are learning in the marketplace. Sitting at home right now, you need to be thinking about that. Take the time to look at yourself. Think about yourself. Think about how you're going to market yourself to others. This is very serious stuff, whether it's typos on a resume. So oftentimes if you get a resume and it's chock full of typos, you really just want to throw it away. You want to throw it away because you know that is what that person you're looking to hire is going to be doing when they're representing you to the marketplace. If you're an employer, if you're not in that position, if you're looking for a job, think seriously about it. This is your first impression. Never have a second chance to make a first impression. It's so critical. Take the time to learn more. Whether you're sat here the last 30 minutes with Jared or not, you can learn more about the job process and getting out there. The hire is a critical one. Take the time to learn more.